My why is because I believe every single person deserves to be heard. That every single person has greatness within them.
Hi, this is Master Your Life with Kate McKay. I am so thrilled to be here today with the one, the only, Jacia Kornwise. Welcome, Jacia.
Thank you so much. I am just thrilled to be here with you, Kate.
This is so cool. So Jacia is a new best friend. And I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to get right on into it, as I love to do it, because I don't need to talk much because I want to hear all about Jacia. So here's a little bit about her. Jacia Kornwise is known as a master in moving your mojo, with a master's in both counseling, psychology, and coaching, and certified training in 5 rhythm dance, breathwork, and somatic technique. She has been working with people for over 3 decades, moving out of stuckness, trauma, and self-sabotage, and inspiring them into joy, success, authenticity, and freedom. As a survivor of multiple traumas and much grief, she leads the work with her heart and from the inside out. She is a TEDx and keynote speaker, 3-time award-winning author of The Love Ball Game, Embracing Yourself and Embodying Your Soul. So here we go. It's always something to be on the other end of your bio, isn't it? Listening to it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I was like, wow, what an introduction.
You're like, wait, did I do all that? Yeah, super cool. So just a quick backstory. Joss and I are actually new besties, as I said. We fell in love over salads, I have to say. We both did a really intensive, a branding intensive, and it was super intense. And the benefit of that time was I was able to hear your stories and hear you messaging your stories. And so this is why I'm even more deeply honored to have you here with me, to be able to get your message out to as many people as possible, and the power of the work to which you bring. So just thank you once again for being here.
Thank you. And I'll never forget you. Every time I eat a salad, I'm with you, which is daily.
We'll share that story. I don't even know why, but like we were both, what happened was we were at a restaurant after the weekend. We were so played out. We were sitting at a table and both of us got the same salad. And I was shoving the salad in my face so quickly. And I looked over at her and she was eating the salad exactly the same way. And her eyes got really big and we just couldn't stop laughing. We're like, we couldn't shove. And I appreciate someone who shoves food in like I do. So I think that was. We live life with unabandoned. And that's what I want to say to you, Jacia, right off the bat. What you've gone through and the ways that you've overcome that is such a powerful mirror for me, because I was so unusual in the way that I led through the grief and the loss of my son. So I'm to be honest with you, Jacia, I always felt a little freaky and a little bit alone. And meeting you really helped me see that I am not alone, that we can transform and transmute through grief and be more powerful and more loving and more humble in our work, in our service. So thank you. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you. I feel the same about you.
So
You're like energy, the amount of energy that comes through you. And I think the amount of energy that comes through those of us who really, really have to completely shatter in life in order to recharge, we get recharged with gratitude and grace and a knowing of we better, sure as smoke, do exactly what we are called to do, because time is short and we have a purpose.
Yes, I hear that. I love that you say that, the shattering, and then it becomes so clear that we need to serve through that. It becomes, it's non-negotiable, right?
It's not negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Yeah, I feel that same way. So, Jacia, who did you want to be when you grew up? Was there something that you felt like you were called to want to be?
Oh gosh, that's a funny story, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be, because I didn't really have permission to know who I was. But what I did sense, I had to pick out, there was a certain kind of coming of age party, and when I was 13 in my tradition that I grew up in, and we had to choose things that represented who we were. And what did I choose at the time? 2 things. A stuffed, in order for the kids to sign their names on it, a stuffed telephone, which is about connection and communication. And the other was a record player. So maybe deep down, I always knew that my work would have to do with communications and movement and dance and sound and healing and connection. But, you know, on the mental level, I didn't know what to be. I thought I was going to be a teacher and an English teacher. which again, I knew there was a book in me, but as soon as I started going down that path, I realized I didn't care about grammar. I wanted to know the heart of people's stories. And then when my brother was tragically, fatally killed by a drunk driver, I was 19 and he was almost 17. It was at that moment that everything shattered, and I quickly shifted from teacher, knowing I was going to go into psychology, because we do what we need to do, which is to heal, to find ways to make meaning of life. And so then my path opened that way. But really, everything came back in, those little glimmers of, I love to dance, I love to move, I love to connect, I wanted to talk to people. It all did circle right into the truth of what I do now.
And were you always so clear in your heart and your passion and the way you communicate?
I was shy, and it really took me till I left home to start to open up for people to really see my depths, because I didn't see that kind of level of communication around me. I didn't really fit in because people weren't talking about real things, or like their feelings, or the subtlety. Everyone was talking about like the surface level stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just I was oriented differently. So it took me a little bit to come into it. But yeah, it was always hidden in there.
So you were always unusual, even in your family.
I think so.
Yeah.
I was born blind in my left eye. And so that marked from, I was different. And even though people tried to make me feel similarly, the fact is people looked at you and said, what's wrong with you? Or there's always that mirror that there's something different. And when you have that, all of us have some feeling of that. There's something wrong with us. But when you get that right in the beginning of your life, it's almost like I was witnessing the world very differently. And now I see it as it's an inner eye, an inner knowing, an inner seeing. But we all have that intuition. Mine just I had to look at it real quick.
It's such an interesting metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because little kids will be like, what's the matter with your eye? You have a booger in your nose. Or like kids are just straight up going to call it out, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that. When I grew up, I wanted to be a child psychologist because I appreciated, and that's no surprise either, because I'm still 5.
Yeah.
But no, it's legit though, because I always appreciated that. I always felt more myself when I was with kids than I did with adults. And I'm like, what's the matter with me? Why is that? And I think it's because of the honesty and the transparency and the directness of young people. And it's not from a place of cruelty in general. It's from like dead on honest, like what
curiosity.
You see.
Yeah.
Curiosity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it's taken me a while to come back into that. And so what was that like for you coming into this more powerful energy? And what was the change agent for you?
I think I've had a lot of healing opportunities, crisis moments, traumas, triggers, but I've used each one of them to take me further into my next step. So, I think the initial shocker, there was very shockers, but when my brother was killed, that definitely opened up my spiritual, emotional, psychological journey, and a knowing that I needed to find meaning. I needed to help people. I needed to find my own meaning. It opened up all sorts of doorways for me from all sorts of realms. So that was the starting.
Your only brother.
Yeah, my only,
and your closest,
and my best friend, beloved. And he had written a book that got published after he was killed within a year that actually foretold his death with the people who are in it in almost an identical parallel universe. And I was his psychic sister in another dimension, which ended up taking me on a journey of understanding. He was with me for 3 decades until he moved on, and until I could let him move on. So that was an opener, but, I also suffered, with one of the things a lot of people know about me right now, because I did a TEDx and I shared about this, but I was a victim of a very, very violent crime. And that was another portal opener for me, as well as, a challenge. But dancing all the way through was one of the modalities. Even though I became a therapist, I became a coach, I studied bazillion things, from mindfulness to mindset to intuitive trainings to shamanic trainings, you name it, it was all explored. But the thing that kept me going through all of it, from the minute I was little coming into the world all the way to this day, that continually deepened, was not lessons, dancing from the inside out. And I kind of didn't realize until I really became powerfully seeing how much it changed my therapeutic clients, that this modality had powers that people were not understanding. And when used in combination with the understanding of somatic tools, trauma, counseling, mindfulness, this stuff could change anyone. And it ultimately did. Should I go here? I'm talking and talking here.
No, I love it. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Well, it ultimately did, because just a few years ago, I was called to a parole trial of one of the two men who raped, robbed, assaulted, kidnapped me, and at gunpoint. And when I was 27, it was a horrible, insane experience that I barely survived. And when I went to that thing, I found myself, and I had been a successful coach and counselor and dance teacher, facilitator, leading, workshops all over. But when I did that, went to the trial, I found myself dancing through the trial, breathing and dancing and moving and shaking. And it was that tool. When I did it, I released things that I didn't even know were still stuck. And within 3 months, I was on a TEDx stage. Within 6 months, I had a best-selling, award-winning book. I was on New York Times Square Boulevard as a rising entrepreneur. Recently, my book's been put up there. I mean, insanity opened, and those, well, dreams opened, not insanity. Amazing things opened that I didn't know I was stopping myself with. And it was the power that practice gave me that freed up the last tension. And that's when I knew I needed to find a way to offer it to anyone. Anyone all over the world. I needed to create it in a way that was online. COVID had hit. And so rather than teaching a lot of my in-person classes because of the contagiousness level, I started doing a lot more online, and I developed this at that time period, and it changed my life. Even though I've been using this practice forever, again, I saw myself break through in whole new ways. And I thought, I've got to get this out there.
Yeah, I have to bring it to more people. And I think that's important, that what you touched on was, it's not dance classes, it's movement as somatic healing.
Yes.
I remember I took my kids to Haiti, and when you go to more tribal cultures, it's just what they do. And they all were in a circle. It was in the schoolyard. It was all the girls, and they would dance to each other, and then they bring one person in the circle and they dance. And then, it was just this beautiful improv of movement. And my daughter gets brought in. And so she was so uncomfortable, because in our culture, it's just not, it's viewed either as like sexual, or it's like you're too free, or whatever it is. And it was so interesting to see how uncomfortable she was in that scenario.
And
So
I love you brought that up, because so
yes.
many people are shamed. We're told dancing is just for, well, some people think it's for sluts or sinners. Some people feel like it's only for girls. Some people feel you have to be a certain age, body type, weight. And what I want to do is use it for healing. And so and this particular way makes you get comfortable with yourself, because it's just you being guided by me. And then there's group coaching, et cetera. But it's this profound way where we're not just dancing, we're using it. We're going through places in our lives, places, stuck points, movements to release, anger, fear, joy, belief systems. And
Yes.
it's a profound transmission. And I totally get how that would have put your daughter on the spot. I
Right.
haven't loved to move. It was the only time I could feel free, but that is not everyone's story.
Not at all, right? So
And I was shamed for it too. Like, I had to shake that off. I wasn't
really,
oh yeah.
right.
I'll move with certain ways. I wasn't supposed to show my shoulders. There's different ways, we're taught about what kind of person does that, a show off, a this or a that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I went to Bennington College, and it was super freaky, artsy. And so we would have Friday night parties, and that's where I learned free. I mean, I'll tell you, to be honest, for me, I can't imagine not dancing, because I'm one of 11, and we all dance. When we had to do chores, music was blaring, and we would all dance. Everybody was dancing. My family danced, and we were wild, and we laughed, and it was freeing. And it was we make fun of my father doing it like he was going down the ski slope.
And there's your joy to be. There's the ancient, like the timeless, the eternal youth comes from that well of dancing. It's revitalizing.
Right. So how do I would love it, because, and I want to talk a little bit more about your story, but I really want to get into the system, because I'm all about systems. I believe that we have powerful stories to share. And yet at the same time, there's systems to our success. And you have a system that I guarantee is the same system that you use in all of your life. Do you mind sharing just the initial ways that you bring people into this work?
Gosh, that's a really interesting question. I worked for so long as a therapist and as a 5 rhythms dance teacher. But before that identity was even there, I was like, for instance, people would see me dance and they would say, I want to learn to dance like you. But I would say, I've never studied dance in my life. Not really. I said, I teach people to dance like them. I want you to dance like yourself. So I think a lot of how I've attracted people is my authenticity, my love, my joy. It's a contagious thing. People want to be around that.
True.
And that's not necessarily what you're always going to get when you're dancing. Sometimes you're going to be sobbing. Sometimes you're going to feel moody and not want to feel like moving. And then I'll have you dance. What does it feel like to not want to dance? And you make the ugly dance and the resistance dance and, all those places. How do I bring people into my work? What was the system? Even as a kid, I was that kid that would like start the idea of something. I was the person who would be like, hey, everybody, let's do this. And I would network all my friends together and suggest something. It just, that go-getter spirit was always in me. I wanted, and as a part of a system thinking, I always had that part of me that knew that we were better together and we were better if we learned from one another and shared experiences, that was going to bring more joy and more healing. And that's why this program is so interesting for me, that I'm finding there's another side to it, because I always did a lot of group work. But this is a very individual program, but there is a group component to it. But it was because I realized with all the group work I'd led, there was still little pieces of me in a group that was not going to go quite as deep without the complete safety of my own space and a guide. And so 100%. I had to find, how do I find that?
I 100% agree. And I think we need both.
We need both.
I think that
100%.
in order to,
I do both.
In order, I think, to be excellent at whatever we do, we need to hire the people to work individually to help us to excellence, because that one-on-one, that safe space.
Yes.
What I heard.
And that's, and that's what I do too, that people can do the program alone. They can get a VIP level where they get to hire, where they work with me every other week, or there's the, I have intensive people who just want to coach with me and do all these works, but then have me every single week and work for a 6-month contract. And we go and we take you, like, as I call it in my book, it's called The Level Game. We take you to your home run, your first. Now there are varying spirals of your home runs, but in the love ball game, we really have to go through all the bases and learn how to move through all the spots. And so that 6-month one-on-one, I'm going to really hold you accountable with that.
Right. So that's what I mean about your system, right?
Yeah.
And so, right. So it's so cool. So I heard that, I love the idea of thinking about you as a little person, being the one that's kind of getting everyone together and bringing everybody. Would you say that you are here to initiate, to be an initiator?
Absolutely. For those of you who know astrology, I've got my little Aries, right? That person that goes out and does things first, that Saturn. I was the person who moved across the country to this very special, unique grad school called the California Institute of Integral Studies, which was just filled with magic. And I had 6 of my friends move from the East Coast or the Midwest follow me out after I started that. I was the kid who decided that I wanted to have a rotating dinner, and we would each make a course, because I loved food. I've always loved food, and I wanted to eat as much as I could in everyone's houses.
Right.
So we made a rotating dinner, and each girl in my little friendship group was responsible for one part of the meal, and I coordinated that whole thing, and we walked from house to house eating appetizers.
That's so the best.
I think that was when I was in 5th grade,
It sounds so awesome. I need more friends like you. Thank God I have you. I love that. Well, I love this whole concept of initiation, because I truly believe that that's what we do as healers and people that are here to be the brighter light. And we can talk it from the esoteric plane, but we also can talk about it on the physical, even in the psychological 100%. Plane. And I believe we need all of it. That there tends to be a little bit of too many people being spiritual bypassing bunnies. And there are systems that we can use that can take us through the more challenging work that has structure and has safety. Because ultimately that's the highest need, isn't it, as humans, to feel safe.
I love that you said that, the structure and safety, because, part of my journey, I definitely, I had to get out to get in, and I did a lot of more esoteric work for a while. And what I found ultimately as a healer is that people really needed to be in their bodies to heal. They needed to have containers, they needed structure, and that you could do a lot of great work and it just disappeared if it wasn't brought back into the body, and in a way that you can access yourself always, and to know the power that's inside you. And that's, I also lead breath work, things that are naturally from within. to realize you have this transformative thing in your body and in your breath that guides you into your intuition and that scientifically releases trauma and stress immediately. In fact, dance recently has been proven 98% more effective than cognitive behavioral therapy, SSRIs, meditation, running, fitness training. I mean, kind of
movement. Movement is life. I
Yeah.
hashtag that all the time.
Me too.
And
I
think that that's such a powerful like image too, because it truly is that movement is life. And you do, like you said, it's important to do our healing physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But as you said, grounded in the body in organic ways. And
in
yet we've
organic
made
ways.
breath and movement inorganic in our culture.
Exactly.
Like it's like not natural anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny, this studio I'm sitting in. So I dreamed it when I was, oh my gosh, look at that. I just pointed, they wanted me to say that. I dreamed this studio when I was 26. I was living in San Francisco and I had a dream that I was going to move somewhere and build a dance studio that thousands of people would come in and move in. And when I moved 5 years later, I made that happen. And when this dance studio opened, I threw a party and invited all my friends. And it was like that dream came to life. And I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And, this place for 24 years in Chico, California led, I had full classes up until COVID hit of 22 to 24 people weekly, 2 or 3 times a week doing different kinds of movement practices, 5 rhythms practices, dances, breath work. And
wow, that's a sacred space.
Yeah.
That's a sacred space. So your book that you've written, can you just tell me a little bit about the story or what made you courageous enough? I mean, you tapped into, there it is, the love ball game. So that's great. So you tapped into a little bit about your trauma, but if you could just give us a little,
so this
it's hard
book,
to say little, but a synopsis.
After the horrible incident, my boyfriend at the time and I were living together, and I knew I had a write. And so he really would encourage me to. And every single day, I always had writing in me. I had piles of journals. And I just started going through things and writing. And at that time, it was like almost channeled writing. Stuff was coming through. And then even astrologers would say, you have a book in your astrology chart. And people would dream about my book back in my 20s and 30s and said, I read your book. I'm like, what book? How did you read my book? It was in my dream. So I was foretold I had this book that I had to publish, and that was a lot of pressure. So for decades, I would like write parts and then I'd be like, this is too self-obsessed. Who wants to hear about all my trauma and stories? And even though I knew the thing that always changed my life when I was young was seeing people who are authentic enough to write the real deal out.
Yes.
I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. I wanted to protect people. I didn't know how to do it. I wanted to come from a place where I felt fully baked, where I wasn't writing the book and feeling like a fraud, or that I hadn't come to my own happy ending. And I guess that took a while. So, and then, at various times I tried to publish short stories and certain things got in the way. And so, but then when I hit the TEDx stage and I had the breakthrough, I knew I had to get that book out. And so I knew it was the time that there was nothing stopping me. That release that this course got me through, that this trial, everything came through. It was just like, it is time. Your voice is 100% back. The world needs to hear it. You have nothing left to fear. You love yourself 100%. Your whole, write the damn book.
Write the book.
And
you
so
were
the book is a
ready then.
patchwork. Yeah, it was
Right.
a patchwork of things that I'd written back in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, combined with things I've written in the past couple of years on my speaking, combined with my body of work. So it's a combo of like self-help, mental health, self-help, self-care, and memoir and stories. And there's even some exercises and things.
Oh, there is. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll be absolutely sharing all the links in regards to that for sure. And so if you could just tell us a little bit more about how your course is delivered. And again, we're going to be sharing all the links. Yeah. If you don't mind just giving a little synopsis on that, because I'm curious too. I can't hear it enough.
Okay. About my course?
Yes.
Well, my course, I'm so excited about it. It was just a passion project for me because it's what got me through. So I was like, I need to get this out. So it is all, it's all up on a platform, and there is every single day, there are movement practices and dances. There are visualizations and meditations and exercises, but it's for every day. And you're going to be with me every day. My face is there. There's a weekly lesson that you start with that has a theme that you use during those dances and processes each week. And there's a journal to keep track of your golden nuggets. And then there is a weekly coaching call on Tuesday evenings, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I guess that's 8 p.m. Eastern. Which of course is optional, but a great option because I'm right there live where we're going to answer questions, do things, and get deeper with what's going on in the work. So that's level one of it, but it essentially is there for you. You can access it on a platform wherever you have internet. You just have to be willing to carve out. It's for anyone who will carve out at least a minimum of 1 hour. It doesn't need to be. It needs maybe 30 minutes in the morning or 20 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. You can maybe 10 minutes in the middle of the day. That's it. If you can say, I'm going to commit to that much daily for 12 weeks, you will have ultimately a reset of your mind, body, spirit, heart blueprint that you're not going to want to stop doing. It's fun. It's transformative. And you start with that weekly exercise and it takes you into where you need to go. Yeah.
So who are you calling in for this program? I know like dance is for everyone, but are there people that have particular things that you would call in?
Yeah. And I don't want people to get thrown off by the word dance. It's like, it's really being willing to move your body. And it doesn't matter as long as you are able to move your body at just a little bit, you can be at any fitness level, which is great. You don't have to be any age, size, shape. You need to feel like you want to develop better self-care. You're wondering why you keep things stuck in some self-sabotage patterns that you can't seem to get through. Some people do it for their creativity. Every time I do this course for myself, I skyrocket in my productivity and creativity. It's like it opens doorways into you. So it could be for creativity or productivity. It could be for self-care or releasing triggers and stress, stuck emotions and trauma. So it's a wide spectrum. Like I'm hoping some of this is going to go out very specifically for trauma survivors of all sorts of crimes and trauma, but it's not made for that necessarily. I just know it works. It's made for anyone who's like, I'm feeling like I look like I have it all, but why am I still unhappy? Where am I out of alignment with myself? It's like that key piece. You might be like going to therapy, going to coaching, doing your fitness, but there's still something like you don't love yourself. You're unhappy. It's going to unlock, why am I not following what I really deep down know I should? It's going to shift that.
It's so powerful. I think that's like why I love coaching so much, because it's what's happening underneath the words. And I have a theater background. So for me, every like podcast I do, every coaching session, I'm looking at things as from a theatrical lens, is like the prologue, the first act, the second act, the story. Like I can't help it because I want to also feel like that my clients or my guests or my friends or whatever feel that I'm completely there. So it's the gift of presence, but it's also listening and being aware of what's not being said.
Exactly.
And I think that, yes.
And so that's what the body practice does.
Yes.
It takes you out of the chatter, out of the mind, and starts to make you look at what's really going on.
Because that's where healing happens. You can keep retelling your story. And I guess that's one of the reasons I mentioned to you why I like coaching men so much is because women, they've told their story a lot more. Usually they've told it to their friends, and then they'll tell you, maybe they'll get some ahas. But when men come and they are quiet and they have a place where they feel safe, right? Because safety, again, we're going back to that. Right. If they can actually speak their truth and I hold safe space for them, that's transformation. Is me 100%. Listening to the nots being said, right?
100%. Yeah. It is true that men have been told even more often not to share their feelings or their story.
Right. And so this is like this
for everyone though.
I'm seeing this program is really being helpful to men. Just anybody that is
100%. It's anyone who's willing.
Yep.
Or and even the great news is you can make a fool of yourself and no one cares because no one's watching but you. And if you're criticizing that part of yourself and you're never willing to make a fool out of yourself and get silly and get sad and get angry where no one's listening, then you have to heal that internal critic. And that is a game changer too.
That's so true. That's amazing. So I'm going to ask you, I was going to ask you a question. Now it doesn't make any sense because like you already had the billboard. You already been on the billboard, but what do you want from all of your exceptional pretty extraordinary traumas and pleasures and joys and seeking and divining, all of these things that you've done. What do you want our audience to know?
I want you to know that if you're curious right now, if there's even an inkling of going, gosh, I know there's stuff stuck in me. No, I don't really like moving. And I know there's a reason I don't really like moving, or I love to move, but I've never really thought about it as healing. This is the key. It certainly has been for me and thousands of people I've worked with. Breaking through fast. It is a quick moving process that just takes commitment. As someone who has survived not only, violence and trauma, but divorce and significant grief and loss and disability, I don't think it is, I think it could be key for anyone. I mean, I really think it's been undervalued and underutilized. And I'm so excited you're hearing a little bit of curiosity that you should contact me and we can talk further.
Well, I love the movement mojo, right? Because it really is something that's untapped. And I think that we're part of a movement, both you and I. And I think we met at a perfect time to drive this movement forward, all from a collaborative lens of celebration. And if we can show the power of transformation through horrific crime, horrific loss, murder, certainly for me, and suicide, and all the mess, and still be laughing over and choking up over a salad, there's something to be said. So if, listeners and viewers, like literally, if you hear and you are just, man, I just want to find out more, please reach out to Jacia. She is here to be a beacon of light, of hope. She's no lightweight. But I think she used a key operative word. Even if you have a mustard seed of faith, a slight glimmer of willingness, lean into that. You deserve to have a miraculous, free life. You deserve that level of freedom. And if you can 10x that in 3 months' time, I say, oh my gosh, reach out. So I'm going to, she has a free gift. So Jacia,
I do.
Why don't you just talk a little bit about what that is? And then again, we'll have everything in the show notes.
Yeah, I have a really fun little morning routine, one of my favorites to just get you started as a free gift, and jump on at www.jaciakornwise.com/gift. And if there's a trouble in that link, just go to drkornwise.com and scroll through. You will find it and so much more. And Kate, I just love being here with you. Thank you.
I'm so thrilled. This is such an inspiration for me. And again, I appreciate you being the power initiator for me as well, as I lean into a bigger version of myself. So I'm grateful that I don't have to do it alone. So thank you so much. And anytime you want to plan that meetup with the food at everyone's house, I'm in.
Oh yeah, no, we're doing that again.
Sounds like so much fun. So, wow. Well, again, Jacia Kornwise, .com/free gift or gift. And that again will be in the show notes. So JaciaKornwise.com. Check it out. And again, thanks to all of you for tuning in to another episode of Master Your Life. I'm Kate McKay, your humble servant, hearing to hold the light for you and everyone else through the lens of gratitude. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And until next time, be great, be well, and keep being your loving heart to the world.